this to me is like the really fascinating material.
We don't know what the answer is, but we're looking for patterns.
I think we're looking at kind of a type of cosmic alchemy.
The story slowly grew interest.
But still, a lot of people don't know that this technology actually exists.
The possibilities here are pretty mind-boggling.
We can't just believe that it was the work of these lone, troubled individuals.
Like a conspiracy theorist would look at that and say, well, the Illuminati or somebody planned this right
Now,
away
is
in
that
advance.
or is that by design?
Looking for meaningful coincidences.
The same pattern.
You're interfacing with your neural circuitry. They're mapping your electromagnetic field and interface it onto an artificial intelligence array system with a live panel in real time.
For someone who's paying attention, they can connect the
It's like
dots.
being drugged, but you're not on drugs.
An effort to do everything they could to discredit this idea.
Okay, man. Well, we're ready to get started if you are, sir.
Oh, I'm ready. I've been ready.
Awesome. Chomping at the bit.
Yeah, because there's some breaking news.
We watched a couple of your videos. So,
That's good. I don't know what I'm doing. I barely can even figure out how to use YouTube at all. I'm just winging it.
yeah, I haven't gone that the way yet. You're doing it live, right? You're doing like the live stream stuff?
I do it both ways. I do it live, and I'll just pop a video up. Like today, I shot 3 videos. But I actually like the live aspect because I get to interact with people. I don't like, just shooting a video and not talking to anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I hear you. Well, guys, we're here. Episode 249. We kind of had a guest flake on us, I guess. Was that what happened? So you heard the last episode. We don't have the guest that it's like the second time this has happened. But this was for a whole other different reason. But hopefully we will be able to get him and be able to talk to him. But Chris Wolford came on the show kind of last minute yesterday. And I've been wanting to talk to Chris anyway, get him back on, because it's kind of been overdue to have you on by yourself, talk about some of the things that are going on in the UFO world. You're one of those people that is very knowledgeable about the subject, knows what he's talking about, and you have kind of a different viewpoint than I'd say probably myself or some of my other peers. So I do welcome that viewpoint. But Chris, welcome back to Conspirinormal, man. It's awesome to have you.
thank you for having me on again. It's a real honor. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. This was the first podcast you were ever on, and you always have a home here. Like I said, respect your thoughts on this whole thing. You come at it from a very different angle than most of we do. I'm pretty non-ETH. I'm pretty distrustful of the government, but I definitely like your passion. That's for sure.
Well, and that's all fine. I mean, I'm still distrustful too, but at the same time, this is our best chance, really. So.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with you on that.
So. I don't know. I mean.
Well, nothing is ever going to be perfect.
No.
Nothing is ever going to satisfy 100% of everybody, and what they can. And what we're talking about here, we're talking about AATIP, we're talking about Tom DeLonge, we're talking about all that, and it's not everyone is going to agree, but it's kind of like the best that we have, basically, as far as getting any kind of word out about the UFO. Now, I was listening to some of your YouTube videos today, and one in particular, and you talked about how you see. But you talk about disclosure, and in your viewpoint, disclosure has already happened. So how has disclosure already happened?
Well, not to beat a dead horse, because you guys probably have already heard this from me, but December 16th, 2017, New York Times article talking about AATIP and the Tic Tac events. That was disclosure. and I also view disclosure as a very personal thing. It's up to the individual whether they want to take that data and I guess believe it, or they choose to scoff at it and say we've seen this before and this is nothing new, which this is definitely something new and we've never seen this before, but I digress. So no, I mean, disclosure to me has already happened. It's now on to confirmation, but I'm a vocal minority when it comes to that. Even amongst my other colleagues that I get along with very great and well, they don't tend to agree with me, but that's fine.
I guess I can see kind of where you're coming from in that, and that I guess that there was kind of this admission that, yeah, something weird is going on. And I mean, I don't want to downplay that at all, because I think it was a big deal. I just think for some of the, and I've said this before, I think for some of the public at large, it just kind of gets lost in the news cycle. But I think maybe for the community, such as it is, I mean, I think that people have, I think it's definitely been downplayed somewhat.
I guess here's my take, and I think I mentioned this in one of my videos. If not, maybe it just came to me. For the elites in this community, in the UFO research community, they tend to live in an echo chamber, and they only want to hear what they want to hear. So I've heard through other people that, again, I've put on pedestals or I've looked up to, and they all say the same thing when it comes to this, that this has been done before, or there's nothing that really is going to help the public with this, or the public awareness didn't get raised. And that is just, to me, not the case. I've said this to you before in private, Adam, that I've had family members change their whole attitude on this topic because of what happened that time. And I've talked to people in the real world, when I'm like going to physical therapy, and they say the same thing. It has changed their whole paradigm. The fact that the government came out and said, "Oh yeah, by the way, we've had this program, and we are studying this phenomenon." So again, I get where those people, the elitists in this community come from, because I've been there. But I also don't live in an echo chamber anymore. I just can't, because I've heard and seen too many people change their attitude and change their tune when they've seen, like my good friend Dave Beatty's documentary, The Nimitz Encounter. They watch that and their whole attitude changes, because that was over multiple days. That was dealing with the Tic Tac UFO. Yeah. And you have multiple good witnesses, not like some hillbilly in some podunk Alabama town. These are all military witnesses, and it happened. And we've studied this stuff. So
yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, and that was a big deal as well. The whole Tic Tac video. I mean, that was
still is.
That was a huge thing.
Ongoing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in a group, again, now I'll just shed some light. I'm in a group on Facebook that is not public and it's not private. It's like, it's secret, because there's 5 members, I think 3 from the Princeton and 2 from the Nimitz, that were there that day that this stuff happened, or they were in that time frame when all that stuff happened. And some of the stuff they're sharing with the group is amazing. Now, obviously, the skeptic or the debunker would ask, well, how can we verify that they were there? Trust me, I've seen their records. I've seen the stuff that they've posted. They definitely were there. Not only that, but I'll just share with this. After the whole Tic Tac event happened, and I couldn't make this up if I tried, an Air Force aircraft, which does not make sense, because usually Air Force aircraft wouldn't land on the aircraft carrier because they don't have that hook to land on the aircraft carrier, but apparently it was a plane landed on the aircraft carrier and took data from the Nimitz and the Princeton radar data and took it away. We don't know where they took that data to. And we wouldn't have known this if it had not been for those witnesses.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
So
that's something I didn't know about.
Well, here's the thing: like that group exists, in my opinion, solely for those witnesses and for the researchers who don't tend to have a negative viewpoint, whether it be about To the Stars or AATIP. We could speak freely, and we don't have to hear outsiders' opinions on influencing this research. And that's, I know that like Jack Brewer, you've had him on your show. Yeah. He was very angry at the fact that we had this group and we were talking to these witnesses. He just said that the way we were doing things was wrong. And I just had to say to him, listen, this is the only way they're going to release this information. Okay, these witnesses are not going to come to you. They're not going to go to the media. They feel safe here. There was one Kevin Day who initially started in the group, and then slowly but surely he brought along a few other people who'd served with him, both on the Princeton and on the Nimitz. So it's a good development. I know I can't like go into very specific stuff, but just know that these men and women definitely saw and had stuff happen to them over that period of time. That was a real event.
So is Jack, is he suspicious of these people? Is that what you're saying?
No, he doesn't like the way that we were doing our research. And he thought because it was a secret group on Facebook that it was in his view, he was suspicious of it and that we were doing it wrong. And I had to tell him numerous times before he blocked me, that's the way it is. You
getting blocked by a lot of people there, Chris.
It's okay. I've been blocked by the NSA, so they can't. None of them can trump that. Okay, no, if you can't be the NSA, then forget about it. You know. And I don't mind if people block me. That's fine. I'm just telling you as it is. Okay. And if you want access to these people, you're gonna have to be respectful and listen to what they want to do. It's not your show to run. It's up to them.
Well, yeah,
not you.
I definitely can see the people that if they feel like that their their loved ones or somebody is or they're in danger or something like that, maybe they just don't feel comfortable about really sharing it widely with the public. Yeah, I mean you kind of have to respect their wishes. That's just kind of how it goes.
And Kevin Day has been an amazing online friend. He's been very helpful to me, very kind, very generous with the stuff he shared with me. So I kind of, for my perspective, I like to protect him as much as possible. Nobody's going to sit there and tell me how to research this if they're not trying to engage him. And I believe I even reached out to Jack and said, hey, would you want an opportunity to get to talk to him? And Jack did not want to do that. So whatever. It's not a big deal. I'm not here to throw shade at researchers. I will say this. Some people in the UFO research community definitely are looking like fools now. They live in the dark ages. They don't want to progress in this subject at all. They just want to keep turning the wheels. And sadly, we're just going to leave them behind. And I know some of them I could hear like Red Pill Junkie or even, Jack Brewer or even Walter Bosley saying in the back of my mind, but you're never going to get anywhere because this has all been done before. No, it hasn't. You're just lazy. They just are, in my opinion, because a lot of my colleagues that I've worked with the last couple of months now, they, not so much me, but they really have turned up some really crazy stuff, have found within the DIRDS papers, those were the papers that were released in conjunction with the AATIP stuff that George Knapp kind of released, and they were government projects or papers talking about certain things that they did at Skinwalker Ranch, that they did within AATIP. So some of those researchers don't even want to acknowledge that. They just think this is a disinfo campaign, which this is the longest disinfo campaign I've ever seen, and it would take a lot of money to do this. It's laughable at this point. But I digress.
What's in those documents? What are some of the interesting things that are in there?
I've talked to you about this before. Dr. Christopher Kit Green paper in there talking about field effects of anomalous. It's not anomalous area vehicles. It's like anomalous. I can't remember the exact wording, but basically of this, whether it be UFOs or whatever related to UFOs at Skinwalker Ranch, and how it affects humans, their physiology. Meaning, does it affect their brain? Does it affect them from speaking? Stuff like that. That paper's in there. Dr. Eric Davis has a paper on wormholes talking about stuff that he's experienced at Skinwalker Ranch and how wormholes may be one possibility of what's going on at Skinwalker Ranch. So there's a lot of stuff, and that's all been released. That's been released. That's for the public consumption. You can look that up on Google. We just don't have every paper on the DIRG's list, unfortunately.
I think where the skepticism is coming in, and we talked about this a little bit, was this kind of the distrust of the government. And you said today in one of the videos that I watched that now you're trying to kind of change that paradigm a little bit and trying to kind of trust what they're saying. I mean, that's kind of in the UFO field, in the conspiracy field, that's kind of a revolutionary idea to say that we should trust the government. But that's almost that's
I agree.
Like a sacred cow.
I know. I mean, it's crazy for us to trust them. But honestly, Adam, at the end of the day, if we don't at least watch this, I guess, progression happen and we turn our backs to it, they will stop. This whole effort will stop. Unfortunately, it just will. It's encumbered. I shouldn't say encumbered. It's encumbered on us to. I guess we have no other choice. They're the only game in town, right? It's you or I are not going to be able to go to Wright-Patterson and look up these stuff. We're not going to be able to go to Area 51 or S4. We got to take what's given to us. And from what I've learned in this last year, there's definitely a good cop, bad cop within the Pentagon. And I guess there's a good group and a bad group. There's a group that definitely wants us out, and there's a group that does not want us out. And not for the reasons you would think.
What would be some of those reasons?
Actually, you've had Nick Redfern on before talking about this, but they view this phenomenon as demonic.
Oh, you're talking about the Collins Elite stuff?
Yes, yes. And actually, I got into a very good conversation with George Knapp within this group on Facebook and connected some dots. And he got back to me and basically said that you are on the right trail. I cannot confirm much more than what you've presented, because then I would be compromising some of his sources and his witnesses, which I fully understand. I'm not trying to make him blow up his world. But I definitely there was a piece of research that it came to me one day, and I just said, put two and two together, because I think George Knapp had mentioned that there's a group within the Pentagon that they did not want AATIP to be out there, and that's why they were the ones initially, when AATIP was released and people who would send in FOIA requests, it would come back that there's no such group. That group was making it so the FOIA request would fail. The group that viewed this phenomenon as demonic. So I was like, So I just posed the question to him in the group, and I said, is it possibly this Collins Elite group? He said, "You're on the right track. I can't say much more." And yeah, so that tells me that there's this group within the Pentagon that wants it out. Now, why they want it out, that's another $1 million question. That's something I'm suspectful of. Like, do they want it out because they want to make money off of these technologies? Do they want to make money off of the threat? That to me makes a lot of sense, right? They want to make money with Lockheed Martin or Bigelow Aerospace on these threats because they view them as threats. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that. I mean, I've not reached out to George Knapp since, really, but I just found that very interesting that there's this group that views this phenomenon in a demonic light because they had scientists messed with. I think a scientist died in the 80s. With Nick Redfern had talked about this with Ray Boucher, that a scientist had died. Some of them were messed with. I know for a fact, this from my fellow colleagues within the AATIP group, that some of the people that were at Skinwalker Ranch more recently for the AATIP part of that study, before 2012, they had stuff go home with them.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
So, it is an interesting thing.
Kind of phenomenon and all that. Yeah.
This was more like the gentleman had gone home and basically he had really negative thoughts, and then he basically was confused as to how he could be thinking that. And the only thing he kept thinking or going back to is the time I spent at the ranch. So I don't know how long the DIA was there. I have no idea. A good person to ask probably would be Jeremy Corbell or George Knapp. They would definitely probably know, or maybe even Harry Reid, because Harry Reid was a very big champion of this whole AATIP. He's the one that got the whole ball rolling.
Right.
But so
somebody is really still fearful about there being some kind of demonic thing, and that's that seems to be a part of it, because you're getting this whole idea now that they're kind of getting away from the extraterrestrial meme and moving towards this kind of interdimensional kind of thing. I've noticed To the Stars is doing that, as well as like it seems that AATIP was very AATIP was very reluctant to say that they were extraterrestrials, moving towards that interdimensional. Luis Elizondo, what's his involvement with all of this stuff?
Well, he was the head of AATIP.
Yeah.
He's now the head of global security for To the Stars Academy. He travels around the U.S. gathering materials from crashed, AAVs, anomalous area vehicles. They don't like to say UFOs. I know for a fact that one of the crash sites, or one of the places, I should say, of these AAVs was in Ohio. And he picked up that part from Ohio and took it back to Hal Puthoff's lab, Earth Tech. And that's in that video on YouTube that you can find with To the Stars. He was in Ohio for about a week. They are doing some revolutionary stuff. And that's another thing I find hilarious, is for all the people who throw shade at To the Stars, they want them to hurry up with this whole metamaterial stuff and get the science out. That's not how it works. Science takes a long time. When you were doing that kind of stuff and studying those materials, you have to have a control, you have to have the actual material, and they want to be very fine-tooth comb, and they want to dot all their I's and cross all their T's. They're not just going to come out and say, this is what we have. That's not the way it works. Plus, if people have been paying attention, which I know some people have, some people haven't, they've been slowly partnering with some DOD agencies to help bring out this material. I don't know much more than what I just said, other than that they are partnering up with these DOD agencies. I don't know what agencies they are. We could speculate, but I don't know that would be very good. But it is interesting that they're trying to bring these materials forthright and out to the public, but it's just going to take some time. I know a lot of people say this is ridiculous. They're just wanting money, or I heard this week that To the Stars wants another $10 million. See, they're going bankrupt. None of that's true. None of that. It's just these people, they like to just talk and yap, and they're just threatened by this at the end of the day. So I don't know. I don't know what to say, Adam. I mean,
why do you think they feel threatened about it?
Because unlike what we've had for the last 70 years in this field, which is not much, we've been in the dark ages, right? Since that December 16th article, and from that, it's been a revolution. Maybe not in your world, maybe not in the world of Walter Bosley, maybe not in the world of Jack Brewer, but for some of us, it has been a revolution because we have actually done some research, reached out to the people that we could get contact with, like the Dr. Gary Nolans of the world or the Hal Putoffs of the world, and actually got some verification on some of the stuff, versus these other people are just talking heads and saying this has all been done before and they don't do any research. So, I mean, I could go on. I mean, there's a good friend of mine on Twitter. His name is Twitter user Jay. I'm not going to give his real name, but he is really good at finding stuff from these scientists that are on the DIRDS papers. He'll go back, look in their LinkedIn profiles, look into other stuff, search scientific white papers all over the internet, and he's found some really interesting things. In fact, he was blown away by one of the scientists that was working on the DIRDS stuff. He had a connection to SAIC, and he's working on, you've had this person on your show before, Robert Guffey, and cloaking technology. Whoa, that's interesting. And so, I mean, again, these other people just don't do the research. That's the problem I guess I have, is they don't do research. Or if they do, it's just very, very scratching the surface, and that's it.
This whole metamaterials thing and the alloys, like, where are they getting these things? I mean, and what are we talking? Are we just talking about like scraps of metal? I mean, where are these coming from?
It's my understanding that the material that was retrieved from Ohio was maybe a 4-inch long piece, and it's layered. And that's all I know about that piece. I know that there's another piece, and people are going to say, oh, God, you should never have Chris on again. I know for a fact that Linda Moulton Howe gave a piece to Louis Elizondo that's better known as Art's Parts. But if people have been looking, and again, this requires a lot of work, all right? I give you that. Hal Putoff this summer was at a scientific conference in Las Vegas. I forget for what. And he talked about that piece. Just the initial testing that they've done is very interesting because it could have not been manufactured here on Earth. It's layered, and it's got properties when you hit it with magnetic resonance, certain frequencies, it almost levitates. Okay, that's his words, not mine. So, and all this is out there. Like, it's on YouTube, it's on Facebook. You just have to go looking for it. It's not going to come to you. You have to get curious and go out and look for all this stuff, unfortunately, until they bring that forth, which is going to take some time.
Yeah, I mean, that's part about doing research is you gotta go looking for it. I mean, it's not coming to you.
No.
Yeah. What was it? The DIRDS paper? Is that DERDS?
DIRDS, small s. Yeah, you could go Google that right now and you could find it.
I haven't even heard of this.
See? Yeah, actually, I'm going to plug somebody that is a lot more knowledgeable than I am. That's Danny Silva. You should definitely have him on your program because he is a point guy with DIRDs. He knows it like the back of his hand. He's actually broken a story about Hathaway International, which is a Canadian aerospace company, and they are currently, right now, researching AAV technology. I can't say much more than that, other than the fact they are taking a look at this. This is a real company. This is a real billion-dollar company. This is not just some crazy guy that Stephen Greer had and says it's a free energy device. This is a real aerospace company. They're looking at this technology, and it's pretty wild. So Danny Silva, you definitely need to get him on because he's the point guy on all this.
Okay. Yeah. Put us in touch. That'd be excellent.
Will do.
Yeah. Okay, so I've been hearing. Well, first of all, you were saying that there's some big news. Did we already cover that, or?
No. Today, breaking around 3:00 or so.
Okay, we're recording this on February 19th. That's for the audience, because this will be posted later. But
so around 3 p.m. today, Tom DeLonge posted on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and shared that a former, you couldn't make this up if you tried, and I about keeled over when I saw this, the former IT guy, the head IT guy, deputy chief of IT at the White House working for Donald Trump is now a advisor to the stars going forward. He no longer works in the White House. He's working for To the Stars now. So that's a pretty big thing in my mind. Yeah. His name, hold on real quick. His name is Chris. Oh, geez. No, I'm going to brain fart. Chris Herndon, former deputy assistant to the president of the United States, Donald Trump, White House Information Technology, the head guy for IT. So I don't know. I mean, some people would just say that's the head of IT. It's not a big deal. But again, and I don't know if I mentioned this last time. I think I may have mentioned it to you in private, but I can tell you now. There has been congressional hearings on this topic, albeit they've been closed door, but Congress has been meeting on this topic. That's fact.
yeah, I think that's been going on since the New York Times article came out, right? Would they start around that time?
Around that time, but a lot more now. A lot more now. Why? I would say partly why is because To the Stars, but also I think
It makes sense. I mean, they're kind of a lobbyist group in a sense. You know, they're trying to.
Maybe I wouldn't say that. I would just say they're a champion of getting this information out to the public.
Right.
Right. And I wouldn't say lobbyists because that means you're taking money, right?
That's a negative connotation. Yeah, I know. But they're essentially lobbying for that. You know, that we need some hearings about this and recognition that this is going on. You know, that's kind of where I'm going with that.
Yeah. I mean, they're requesting information from the government. They're lobbying for their cause.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the good thing for you and I, right? I mean, we want that. We want, at least I do. I mean, it's better than the giant hurricane that's happening right now in the Pennsylvania Avenue, right? So at least we can maybe have some other movement on something else other than this negativity that's over there. I guarantee you, if it wasn't such a storm, that maybe there'd be a lot more movement on this subject. I'm kind of with Stephen Bassett on this. If Trump is not the president, and I hate, like, I don't dislike the guy, I don't like the guy, but if that hurricane isn't at the White House, I think this subject would be elevated a lot more. I don't think we'd have to be mitigated like we are. but maybe I'm wrong.
I can see that in a sense because, I mean, what dominates the news cycle right now is just Trump this, Trump that. I mean,
yeah.
If Trump would talk about it, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. Well, then they just make fun of it. I mean, that might be negative for the whole UFO thing.
I mean, if you're Stephen Greer, you said, he's already been briefed. He's already been briefed, but I don't buy that one iota.
Which was kind of my point with the whole news cycle thing when it just kind of got lost was really because of what was going on with Trump. I mean, that's like the next thing that he would say. I mean, but yeah, I mean, there might be more of a focus on it, but the hearings are also closed door. So I'm wondering if any of that's public record. Or whether they'll make it public record.
Well, some of it was in the sense of it. We are aware that they had the meeting.
Yeah.
That's like in the paper for the Congress. But what was said, I don't know. And the reason why I think initially it's going to be closed door is because of the national security implications. Right? So they're not going to just say, oh, by the way, oh, yeah, these things have been coming here for a very long time. We've been studying it. And oh, by the way, just for your listeners and for you, if you're not aware, AATIP never stopped. Okay, just because the New York Times said it stopped, it didn't really stop. It did get funding from another source. We don't know what that is, but it never stopped. And this is per Jeremy Corbell, and this is per George Knapp. And this is maybe 3 weeks ago. We asked them again about this. AATIP has never stopped. Okay, so it got started in 2007, and it's still going to this day. And I think Luis Elizondo kind of hinted at that in the last interview that he did with George Knapp too, that this study is still ongoing.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see how they could be unofficially still going. Yeah, I mean, I think those kind of tactics happen.
Yeah.
Conspirinormal is brought to you by our new sponsors. Interdimensional alien AI overlords from the future. Please show your support by going to patreon.com/conspirinormal or making a one-time donation at conspirinormal.com. Please show your support by going to patreon.com/conspirinormal or making a one-time donation at conspirinormal.com. And now, back to the show.
Turning to Jeremy Corbell. I mean, we've reached out, we've tried to get him on the show, but it just doesn't seem like it's going to happen. I have not seen I've seen the Skinwalker Ranch one. I have not seen the Bob Lazar one. So I don't know. I mean, I'm familiar with Bob Lazar's story, of course, but I haven't seen the documentary. I'm just going to assume that you've seen it.
Oh, of course. Of course.
So, what are your thoughts on it? Is there anything in there that was new? Was there anything that was revelatory? I mean, do you trust Bob Lazar?
Do you want me to give a spoiler away? I mean, I don't know if you want to hurt.
I'm fine. I don't care.
All right. For my personal opinion, yes, there was a few revelations within that documentary. Some of it, though, I thought, in my opinion, didn't go far enough. I didn't feel that Jeremy, he should have pushed a little bit harder, but I feel, and this is just me talking to people who work with Jeremy, that once the whole raid happened up here in the upper part of Michigan, and I think it's Frankfurt with the FBI, Jeremy kind of cooled it on pushing Bob Lazar, because I guess what took place is Jeremy and Bob had a conversation with their phones off, and somehow, again, this goes back to we don't trust the government, right? You and I don't trust the government. I don't trust them. Only maybe on the UFOs, maybe. But they recorded a conversation with Corbell's phone off, with Bob Lazar's phone off. They recorded that conversation and verbatim shared that conversation back to Jeremy Corbell and to Bob Lazar, word for word. And that scared the hell out of Bob Lazar. And not only did it scare the hell out of Bob Lazar, but it scared the hell out of Jeremy Corbell, because it became very real. I mean, not that he didn't trust, Bob Lazar, but the fact that the FBI came back and said, this is what you said during this conversation, that you thought that was private. And I think that kind of scared him a little bit. And that's why I don't think he went as hard as he could have. But whatever, not a big deal. It's not my movie. It's his movie. There was other stuff in there. All right. So Bob Lazar had said, I never heard him say this until the documentary, but I know other people have said that he said it back in the late 80s, early 90s, where he said when he would go to S4 and get there, there was a archaic fingerprint scanner device that you put your hand on it and it would scan your hand, but it would be scanning your bones and how big your bones were in like your pinky, right? I know it sounds space age, sounds Star Trek, but that came to be true. That was the case. And not only that, but the company that made that device had an exclusive contract with the Department of Naval Intelligence. Very interesting. Actually, a fellow researcher, a female researcher, brought that to my attention because she went digging about that scanner. It was very archaic, but it was ahead of its time during that time. It was thought to be like really super uber cool technology during the late 80s, early 90s. And it would measure your pinky bone, I guess. I don't know. But you can go find, if you watch the documentary, you can see a picture of it. I forget what it's called, but that was kind of a revelation because you see Bob in the documentary showing pictures because Jeremy found this device too. And he showed a picture to Bob, and Bob just lights up. He's like, I never thought he would ever find a picture of this or let alone even know what I'm talking about because they thought I was crazy. And you kind of see that Bob Lazar gets really excited. So that was a big one for me. But really, as a whole, the documentary, really, if you don't believe him, you're not going to believe him with this documentary. You really aren't. If you believed him, you maybe sort of believe him a little bit more. I thought the documentary was very well done. Some people didn't like the Mickey Rourke narration.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Some people thought it was distracting. Yeah.
I guess, maybe. I mean, you got to remember, Jeremy is a very artsy guy, and he wanted a guy that he looked up to from when he was a kid to be in his documentary and to speak in his documentary, the spoken word. And a lot of that stuff that he, what was his name now? I had a brain fart. The narrator.
Mickey Rourke.
Mickey Rourke. Sorry. Mickey Rourke was talking about was written by Jeremy. So he took that, I guess Jeremy took that very hard when people are saying they didn't like it because that was all written by Jeremy. That wasn't written by Mickey Rourke. So, as a whole, I like the documentary. It's not going to make the disbelievers believe, and it's not going to make believers believe that much more. I mean, maybe a little bit. It's not the documentary you think he would have done. There's a lot. I mean, it was very well done, but it doesn't encompass all this other stuff that you came to know with Bob Lazar. He talked about the UFO stuff a little bit, but he really humanized Bob Lazar, which I feel is good. I'm trying to think what other things. The one thing I wish Jeremy Corbell would finally release, and I'm getting real mad at him, and in fact I may email him again, is he's got a video in a trailer that he's got Bob Lazar at United Nuclear watching the gimbal video and saying, like, Bob Lazar is talking about the gimbal video. We don't know what he's saying, but I would like for Jeremy to release it at some point because I would think it would be very interesting.
What's the gimbal video?
The gimbal video was the second video that To the Stars released, or the Pentagon released.
Okay. To see what he was, see what he thought of it. Yeah.
Yeah. From what I know from people that were connected, Jeremy, it seemed like Bob Lazar was saying some of the stuff that that was picked up on the FLIR system is consistent with what was. How am I trying to say this? It was consistent in what he had seen at S4 when he saw the test flights.
Gotcha.
So,
I mean, Bob Lazar in and of himself. Well, I mean, first to say that, you know, in your opinion, like there really wasn't anything new that kind of mined any new fields as far as the story itself. So it kind of just leaves people divided still. Like, I don't you don't think it would have converted someone that said, I didn't believe Bob Lazar 30 years ago, but I believe him now because of this documentary.
Yeah, no,
that's
not going to happen.
It didn't really change any of that. But what do you think about his story? I mean, do you think that he is telling the truth, or do you think he's telling the truth as he understands it? I mean, what's your thoughts on it?
From the information that I have and the data that I've seen, I believe Bob was there at S4. He knew too much about stuff that you or I, like the stuff that happened at Area 51, how to pay for your lunch, where to go for the Janet flights, how to interact with the people at S4. Jeremy has gotten some witnesses. One only has come forward, Dr. Kringle, who worked with Bob, not alongside Bob, but worked with Bob at Los Alamos test facility. And he was at security briefings. And again, as Dr. Kringle said, you're not a janitor there if you're attending security briefings. And these were not security briefings just to say for general people. These were security briefings for people who were working on highly classified programs. So if Dr. Kringle says he was at Los Alamos, it's not that much of a stretch for me to believe that he was at S4. And mind you, when Bob Lazar was at S4 and he was never fired. He quit. He stopped going to work, right? When all that happened, word got back at Los Alamos, and Dr. Kringle and some of Dr. Kringle's cohorts knew that that was the kind of work that was going on at S4. Not that it was ET crap, but it was super black programs, and that Bob Lazar, in his opinion, Dr. Kringle's opinion, was definitely a guy that would be definitely picked for some program like that because of the fact he would always think outside the box. He questioned authority all the time. He did not fit in the box of the scientific mold, the perfect pocket protector. The guy liked hookers. He liked motorcycles. He liked gambling. Not so much gambling, but he liked fast cars. He liked hookers, okay? I'm not going to lie. He liked hookers. I mean, he's a nerd, right?
You're in Nevada. I mean, you might as well take advantage of it.
Exactly. I mean, and part of the reason why he got in trouble.
Ranch every now and again.
Yeah, Dennis he died though. Unfortunately, Dennis has died not that long ago. But part of the reason why they kind of nixed him from working at S4 is because his wife was having an affair. And part of the agreement when you sign with those programs is they wiretap your phone. And they knew that the wife was having this affair, and the security deems it as a threat to national security because now your wife could babble or you could babble because you're not in a good mental state because your wife is cheating on you. So again, people forget about that aspect, or they want to bring up on how like he was brought up with the brothel charges. But when the court system went to go look for his records, they didn't exist. The courts couldn't find them. George Knapp couldn't find them. Jeremy Corbell did find one person that would drive Bob Lazar to Caltech daily, but that's all we've really found. We never found anybody from MIT. So, you know what? Honestly, I don't care about the college degrees. It doesn't mean anything. See, people get hung up on that. I don't know why. It doesn't mean you cannot work at Los Alamos. It doesn't mean you can't work at S4 or Area 51 or any of those programs. It just means that he didn't go to college. So what? Or he went a different route. Who cares, right?
Yeah, I was thinking about that myself, and you got to wonder if someone that is kind of like an autodidact and is kind of at a genius level, whether or not that would be someone that you just say, okay, well, you don't have the proper education, but we would really like to recruit you to come and work because we think you'd be a good part of the team. So none of that really matters. I mean, maybe he could have said, well, I'll go get my education while I'm doing this, or however it might have been.
Yeah.
But you would just recruit those guys. I mean, you think about like some of these hackers, these hacker kids that get recruited to work for the intelligence agencies, and like some of them, I mean, I'm sure they don't have college degrees.
Or you could be,
of course.
You could be valuable enough that time was like, they need you now. They don't need to wait.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, think about it. They had run into a problem. The prior scientist blew himself up, right? They told Bob that the guy basically quit. No, he got to the S4 and found out the guy blew up because he tried to penetrate the reactor, right, from the UFO. So, but they didn't tell him that till he was there for like 2 weeks. So, I mean, if they would have said, oh, by the way, the guy prior to working here, he blew up. Can you still work here? I don't think anybody's going to take that job, right? So they kind of lied to him and he kind of lied to them. But I think it was a two-way street. Like they didn't care that he lied to them, and he didn't care that they were lying to him, right? Until it got weird where they were shooting out his tires, and then he went public with George Knapp, and that's where things got really sideways for him. He really screwed up, and he'll admit that. But I think, looking back, I do feel it's possible that he was definitely used to get this meme out into the public sphere, and it kind of blew up in their face. They didn't realize that if they go out with this UFO story, that everybody was going to go to Freedom Hill and look down at Area 51. They didn't think that because they don't think like that. They thought that if they send this guy out and he does talk, which he did end up doing, that it would drive people away because they're just going to say, oh, it's just UFO stuff happening at Area 51. Not a big deal. And it really just blew up in their face.
Yeah. And they also could have obscured it as well, just paint him as a crackpot, all this kind of stuff.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, my feeling about Lazar is like, I think he saw something. I think he was definitely there. What it is he saw, I mean, that could be up for debate. But I think that what he's saying, I mean, I think what he's saying he saw is what he saw, and that, because he never, I don't think it's to my mind, he never said he saw aliens or anything like that. He just said he saw some weird kind of craft,
Yep.
And so we don't really know what that is or what they were working on out there.
No, and the fact that there was only, think about this, Adam, at that time, and he maintained this through the entire time that he's ever talked about this, there was only 22 scientific people working on that program, meaning metallurgy, the propulsion system, the craft itself, how to fly. Only 22 scientists. The rest were military. And that's right there tells you and shows you they weren't going to get very far, right? Because it's all military people all the time. And it was an oppressive place to work at. They were always in your face, yelling at you, and just saying, get it done. I want to improve on this, or have you made any drastic? I don't know. Have you learned anything new? And it's only been like 3 weeks, and he's like, nope. we basically bounced a golf ball off the reactor, and it bounced up and it hit the ceiling tile. They're goofing around for some of that. He had one coworker that could work with him on the propulsion system. One coworker. That's crazy. I mean, here's the other thing. I know that Jeremy Corbell has stated that he does have some other people that knew Bob Lazar from that time because they themselves were at that facility. But I don't think those people are going to ever come forward. I really don't. I will say this. One quick thing, then we can move on. Jimmy Corbell did find Mike Thigpen, the guy that hired Bob Lazar from this office. It's a Defense Department office from the Atomic. I know it sounds crazy. From the Atomic Energy Agency. He works for like both agencies. He lives now on the East Coast, like in Boston. Jimmy Corbell found him and asked him, "Did you hire Bob Lazar?" He said yes. Did he work at S4? Yes, he did. Was he employed by EGG, a subcontractor of S4 and Area 51? Yes, he did. So, but Mike Thigpen won't go on camera, but he answered all that stuff to Jeremy Corbell. Now, none of that's on camera, so I take that for what it's worth. But I thought that was pretty big. But really, overall, the documentary was good, but it wasn't going to change opinions.
Sure, I think that's pretty valid assessment. Because it doesn't seem like that it really has. But also too with Corbell stuff, I think what he's doing is he's getting a lot of this information out to a new generation that maybe has not heard of this. And that's kind of like one of the main complaints that I've heard is like, well, why are we talking about this? Well, I mean, because we were talking about this 30 years ago or 20 years ago. Well, a lot of people haven't heard about it, and that's a lot of younger people. They haven't heard about this. And, so that's what he's doing with the Skinwalker Ranch documentary. And that's, or what was the other one he did? Patient 17.
Patient 17.
A lot of people and probably people that kind of like in his age group that probably haven't really haven't heard about this, and I'm sure that, he's a filmmaker, so he's wanting to make money as well. So, you're finding, and he is passionate about the, about the subjects that he does.
I'll email him again and try to get him to do your show. I know that we were talking back and forth, but even when he would email me, it took a long time. So
yeah. I mean, it's all good. I mean, we can talk about that later.
All right.
It is what it is. I mean, some people are just busy, man. I mean, that's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
But he did go on some Bigfoot podcast. I don't know. I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what one you're talking about. Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to ask you too about is the TV show now, the Project Blue Book TV show. I have not seen it, but that's mainly because I don't really have cable, and I'm not going to pay extra to get the History Channel. Because
I hear you.
Because I really want to see Ice Road Truckers and whatever else.
Hitler.
Yeah, they don't even have Hitler on there anymore, man.
Hitler UFOs.
Ancient Hitler UFOs.
Yeah. Yes. Gee, dude, this podcast has gone down the toilet now. Oh my God.
But I mean, what's your thoughts about that show?
I am, I guess, a fan of the show. Yes, it's not a real depiction of said events.
Sure.
It's based off of some events. It's not a real depiction. The only person that I've seen go like psychotic about this show, and I'm going to say his name, I don't really care, is Mark O'Connell, the guy who wrote the book about Hynek that came out a couple of years ago, like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
He's adamant that this show is total garbage. I couldn't disagree more. I feel that any show dealing with this topic is a good show. Okay, it just is. For me, it harkens back a little bit to X-Files. It's got that vibe going on a little bit. It's entertainment, bro. It's not supposed to be. If he want his show, his Hynek show, because Marco kind of had done some TV in the past. He wrote for Star Trek, I believe.
Yeah.
If he wants his show, then you know what? He should have moved his butt to make that show, but he didn't. And he's also mad that they didn't come to him and ask him to be a part of the show. I really feel that. They asked Hynek's two sons, and it's funny, Hynek's two sons have no problem with the show. None whatsoever. They said that they have nothing but admiration for the show, that David O'Leary, the creator, with Robert Zemeckis, has done a very good job of what their dad did. In fact, they said their dad would probably sit down and have a good old bowl of popcorn and enjoy himself, because it's meant to be enjoyed. It's not meant to be a friggin' documentary. But O'Connell, he's all up in arms every single day. Oh my God, it's the worst thing ever. And I've heard other people say it's not accurate. Who cares if it's accurate? It doesn't have to be. It could touch on stuff, It's not meant to be exact, every little step that he took. That's not the way it works. It's television. Of course you're going to mess it up. What did they expect? I don't understand these people. I really don't. It's probably the same people who want new blood into this community, into this field, but then they bitch about it once that new blood comes into this community or field because we're doing it wrong. Whatever. No, I like the show, so...
This is Chris's soapbox, guys.
Yeah, I know. No, it's just I'm not holding back anymore,
Hey.
Yeah, it's all good, man. I mean, that's what this show is here for. It's it's to hear your opinion, and that's why you're the guest, and I'm sure
good.
that there's other shows.
You're gonna get hate mail now.
We've had on that we'll say exactly the opposite, but that's kind of how it goes.
That's fine. That's fine. I still love them.
Yeah, it's what is this whole thing that I'm kind of hearing? This is kind of obscure to me. Is this something about Richard Dolan and about trying to interview some old guy or something? Like, what is this? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Richard Dolan interviewed this old guy in 2012 or 2013. Now, the guy claims that he worked at the CIA in, I want to say, 1953.
Yeah.
And funny enough, Jeremy Corbell was the one filming that entire thing, right? Because it was part of the whole citizen disclosure thing. So I think it was 2013. I don't know about that guy. Like the old guy, I don't know. Maybe he worked for the CIA. I don't know. His tale is pretty interesting. He talks about how Eisenhower threatened the people at Area 51 if they didn't release some of the information about this UFO subject, because I guess Area 51 had been the hub of this information, that if they didn't release it, Dwight D. Eisenhower was going to send the 7th or 8th Army into Area 51 and take the base over. Now, that is far-fetched as all get out, right? Even for me, I mean, that's a bit much, right? So I don't know. I mean, Richard Dolan, I don't know. I mean, I know it was set up through, I know Linda Moulton Howe, that was her original witness, but I don't know. I mean, the guy's dead now, so
yeah, I
don't know. It's all news for me.
I mean, why is this coming out now, though? Why are we hearing about this now?
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, because I thought this was like
this is new to me, so I don't know what this is. But what
I don't know. I know that somebody had yesterday in Twitter said that Richard Dolan was on the side of the show of Project Blue Book, and that he was helping to correct people the actors and actresses in the scenes, which was just hilarious because he has nothing to do with the show. Yes, he's had David O'Reilly, or not O'Reilly, like the creator of the show. He did have him on his YouTube show, but I don't think Dolan has anything to do with Project Blue Book. So I just thought that was weird because they had like this Photoshop photo of him sitting next to the two actors. It's like, what? Why are people doing this? Maybe people don't like Richard Dolan anymore. I don't know. I know that people got really they don't hold him in such regard as they used to. I know that. So for a number of reasons. I mean, I don't know if you're ever going to have him on again. I don't know. I know that, like, I've reached out to him and he never responded back to me. He's the only person in the Solon community that I've written to, and he's never gotten back to me, ever. Everybody else I've ever reached out to, they've always gotten back to me. I just find it funny. So, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really know. Honestly, lately I haven't really kept up a lot about Dolan, about what he's been doing.
He's hitting the YouTube game hard, man. His super chat. Now, listen, on YouTube, if you want to make money, that's fine. And if you want to make money in this field, I guess I'm not going to hurt at you. I'm not going to throw a bone at you or anything or get mad at you. But it looks really bad when, like, on your super chat. I know some people are going to be like, oh, God, Chris, don't say this. But I had to. Like, the super chat, when he does his live stream, to ask a question, you can make it so you could ask a question for $1.99 or $99. It's like,
what,
dude, man?
Hey,
yeah,
Adam, we need to get on there, man.
Yeah. Ask a question for me.
Yeah. So here's the problem, though.
Super chat.
So he's got 50,000 subscribers on YouTube, right? So he could do that. Now, you and I only have 50 subscribers on my YouTube channel. I think you had, last I saw, like 180 something.
Yeah,
or 300 maybe.
I think we're over 200 by now. Yeah,
but
something
we
like that.
can't ask. We can't get monetized yet. Not until 50,000 subscribers. So
Yeah.
Richard Dolan has done that. And when he does his live streams, when you want to ask a question, you got to pay for it, which I have a real problem with that. I'm sorry, but I do. And I get it. He's doing this full time. I get it. But at the same time, that comes off of a bit, I don't know, hard. You know?
Yeah, that's the problem, is when you're at somebody at a level just kind of like Richard is, and he's so well known among that community, and you're able to do something like that, and yeah, when money gets involved, things start getting a little bit iffy. People start really starting to distrust. And I'm not necessarily saying that he's out scamming people or anything like that. It's just that there is a perception out there that that's what's going on.
All
right. So, yeah, man, I don't, it's one of those things where I don't know. It's his deal, not mine. So,
well, is there anything else that is interesting you right now about the field? Anything that you like, kind of that you've kind of discovered that you're like kind of like, well, this is interesting. This is new. I mean, what are some of the things that you're really fascinated looking at right now?
Honestly, I've not really. I've been kind of taking a break as of late.
Yeah.
I've been watching other people or helping other people, but nothing. I don't have anything that I'm working on right now. Nothing comes to mind. Sorry.
That's okay. I mean, what's the future look like for the UFO field? I mean, what do you think? What if you had to guess? Like, what do you think? Where do you think it's going to be in a year or 5 years? I mean, are we going to be? So, is there going to be anything revolutionary going to come out? And what do you think?
Well, I don't know that I would say revolutionary, but I would definitely say that we are going to know some more. We're going to learn some things that we didn't know before.
Yeah.
We're going to learn that science has definitely been involved in this subject a lot more than what we think it is. I can speak on that personally. And I've shared this with you, Dr. Gary Nolan, Dr. Christopher Kit Green, with the Experiencer study. That is a real thing. That is ongoing right now. They're studying experiencers, and they're getting some crazy stuff come back to them. Yeah, I mean, I just feel it's a really good time for this subject. It's the one thing I guess I will say is I wish they would just come together instead of fight and bicker and piss and moan, that we would just come together. But it seems, from my take, from my being in this, even for the 4 or 5 years I've been doing it hardcore, that some of the people in the upper echelons in this field, they're kind of just become too jaded or too spiteful or just don't care. They've lost their curiosity, and they've allowed themselves to just spin their wheels. And we're just talking about the same old cases. We're just talking about and listen, I'm not an ETH guy, right? I'm not an extraterrestrial hypothesis guy.
Yeah.
I leave room for it, but I'm not gonna sit there and say that there is or isn't. From my own experiences, I don't know what I interacted with. I'm not gonna sit there and say they're alien, but I'm also not gonna sit there and say that they're also probably interdimensional, because I don't know. But I guess what I'm trying to say is some in the field bash the others who do subscribe to the ETH, and it's hard to see, I guess, not see, but hard to grasp as to why they attack these people or throw shade at them. And I thought we just wanted all to come together. I mean, new blood is good, right? It's good, because otherwise this field's just going to die. And actually, I love Joshua Cutchin. He posted this on Twitter just the other day, that he mentioned that all these old UFO researchers are pissing and moaning, and they want new blood to come into the field. But when we get there, they say we're doing it wrong, or they don't like what we say, and then they just get mad. And I'm sorry, but it's the way it is. You know, I wish we could work together. Like, I wish I could come together with Jack Brewer. I mean, we were talking for a long time, but that relationship kind of got diminished and disintegrated. And same with him with Walter Bosley. Now, some of that is on my end, because I get very passionate, get very heated, because
we've noticed.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is the stuff that I do know that I can't bring out to everybody, because then I'd be burning sources, right? And I just can't. And I've said this the last time I've been on your show, and I'll keep saying it. There's certain things I just cannot say, unfortunately. It's just the way it is. And I've had to pay a price for that. People don't believe me. I've been ridiculed. I've been mocked at. I've been made fun of. That's fine, but
well,
I
you're
just
trying
wish,
to respect somebody's wishes. I mean, I can understand that a lot more than someone that is just like, well, I can't tell you because the government told me to, or something like that.
It's good to be someone who can keep a secret, man. Then more people will tell you secrets.
Yeah.
Well, I will just say this, and then we'll get done with the show. Just in this last month, I've had a government scientist, a genuine black budget scientist, come to me, who is working on a project with Joe Firmich. And he basically gave me all this stuff. He gave me stuff that nobody should have. I mean, he gave me schematics. He gave me videos. He gave me a bunch of stuff. He wanted me to release it because he was pissed that Joe Firmich owed him a lot of money, and the government owed him a lot of money and didn't pay him his money. And I think it was like $4 or $5 million that this guy is owed. And he chose me. I'm like, why are you choosing me? Because you're a Michigan man, Chris. I'm like, why? I'm a nobody. Don't choose me. I didn't want to be involved with that. Yeah. That's my life, okay? I mean, I wouldn't wish this on anybody, even my worst enemy, to deal with that. And I'll share with you, Adam, some of the stuff that I got from this guy. I'm not going to say his name, but he's a genuine black budget scientist guy. He's the real deal. And he's worked on this stuff, and some of it is like, holy mackerel. Like, I don't want to get in trouble because I know probably some of it is breaking national security. I guarantee it. But obviously with the Firmage stuff, some of it was found to be totally crap, right? But it is what it is, and that's just my life, and whatever. It's all good, but yeah, it's been a whirlwind.
I'm sure it has been. Yeah, when you're talking to some interesting people, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
I mean, I ain't talking to the reptilian people. Those people I could fend off. It's like no big deal. When a real scientist comes to you and says, "Oh, by the way, I've got this stuff and they're not paying me, and I'm gonna basically out them," and he gives me all this stuff, and then he wants me to out the program. I'm like, whoa, I don't want to be a part of this. I mean, there was people that I shared the video on Facebook in certain Facebook groups, and they were blown away. They're like, how did you get this? Like, I could kind of tell you, but I kind of can't. It's one of those things where I think I posted to Greg Bishop's group, and all I said is, don't ask any questions, just enjoy. Because really, I can't answer all the questions.
Yeah, nobody can.
So, no.
Nobody can. Well, Chris, what's next for you, man? Where can people get in touch with you? Tell everybody about your YouTube channel as well.
I don't even know my YouTube channel, and what a bad question to ask.
I think it's just under Chris Wolford, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think it's under Chris Wolford, the crazy guy with outdoor clothes, yeah. And then Facebook, Twitter, I don't know. I'm there. You could find me if you want me. I'm not out there for self-promotion. I don't care.
All right, Chris, thanks again for doing this, man, especially on such a short notice. And guys, we're going to close out this section, but we'll be back to close out this show on Conspirinormal. And we're back.
Fire in the hole.
That was interesting.
That was good.
I'm curious about your thoughts on it, man.
I'm really ill-informed about the topic of UFOs, really. I don't really stay really up to date with it. I like some, I'm into some overarching theories and stuff like that. So it's always good to hear from somebody who's like really on the cutting edge of what's going on.
Yeah.
So he stays totally up to date, and we have the different UFO beefs and everything. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah, there was a lot of beefs going on, and I think everybody knows by now that Chris's opinions are his opinions. I did ask him a lot of questions about that, but I value Chris's opinion on stuff, so I really wanted the audience to hear it, and it was good to have him because it was kind of a pinch, I think, for him. I mean, I literally texted him last night and was like, hey, we kind of need a guest for episode 249. So you were asking me some things upstairs about the Collins Elite stuff.
Yeah.
What are some of your thoughts? You had some thoughts on that.
If the the line's always been that one of the main enemies to disclosure is a fear that there'll be a breakdown in religion, in public order, in nation states, etc. And if the if the interdimensional and approaching spiritual aspect is being brought forward, it seems like those implications would be even graver, as opposed to just some purely physical extraterrestrials that could be worked into perhaps someone's religion or religious view of the cosmos, like how we see in the Vatican Church has been seemingly preparing for a long time. But this is almost like some childhood Zen stuff.
Uh-huh.
And
Right.
it's like,
right.
So to me, it's like all those implications are even, when you really bring that into it, it's almost like disclosure means almost like providing the fodder for a new religion or end of old religions, or it's just such a big paradigm shift that, man, that's kind of a big deal. There's a lot of different angles to that. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I've read Nick Redfern's Final Events. We did a show about that with Nick. I think the first show we ever did with Nick was about that.
Right.
And this supposed Collins elite, and how there could be this people in the Pentagon that, they believe that there's some demonic influence and something with UFOs. Maybe it's just that they believe that. We can kind of leave that there, possibly.
Right.
Or, there seems to also be, like Chris was saying, that there's this kind of like little war going on, and who wants to release the information, and should we release the information? But I definitely see the point, and I think that you were talking about, would people start to worship these beings
Absolutely.
if that ended up happening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then if there is a like conservative Christian faction within the military establishment that's opposed to this because they think aliens are demons or something like that, maybe what if there's another segment who are like pro alien demons, and maybe some like,
I know, and
the whole Jack Parsons thing, of course, that's the beginning of it, but who knows?
And there very well could be. I've been talking a little bit about this like chthonic deities thing, kind of some of these ideas in my mind about what that could be, and the possibility that a lot of this satanic ritual abuse, and I haven't really talked a lot about this on the show, but this idea like satanic ritual abuse, and that they're not really worshiping Satan, but they may be worshiping some kind of chthonic deity. That is, if you say that not all of that's just hype or some kind of panic, that some of that may be real. So in that respect, are there people that possibly worship those deities and then see them as kind of like the old ones coming back from like Lovecraft or something like that?
I just reread Call of Cthulhu too. So.
Yeah, so you may have a point there. On from the crazy to something really crazy. I wanted to kind of read this. This just happened not too long ago. A Florida student was arrested after he refused to participate in the Pledge of Allegiance. Police said they arrested the child because he disrupted a school function and resisted an officer without violence, but not because he refused to recite the pledge. A 6th grade student in Florida was arrested when officials arrived in his classroom after he refused to participate in the Pledge of Allegiance, authorities said. The student at Lawton Childs Middle Academy in Polk County refused to stand for the pledge on February 4th, according to a statement from the school. Students aren't mandated to participate in the pledge according to the school's rules. Unfortunately, a substitute teacher was not aware of this, and she engaged in an exchange of words with the student and called the school's administration to come to her classroom, according to the statement. The school's resource officer, who is permanently assigned to the campus, also responded to the substitute's classroom, but was not called by the administration regarding the incident, the statement said. The SRO decided to make the arrest. No one from the school requested charges to be pressed or for an arrest to be made, the statement said. The school did subsequently discipline the student. Bay News 9 reported the student, who was not identified because he is a minor, was suspended for 3 days. Representatives from the school and police didn't return a request for comment. But both police and the school insisted that the student was arrested because he refused to participate in the pledge. The student was arrested after becoming disruptive and refusing to follow repeated instructions by school staff and law enforcement, the school said. This incident followed the daily Pledge of Allegiance in the classroom. To be clear, the student was not arrested for refusing to participate in the pledge, and they just keep
They clear about that yet?
It's just like Bay News 9 reported that the substitute teacher provided a statement to the district saying that when she told the boy to stand for the pledge, he said the American flag is racist and that the national anthem is discriminatory toward black people. Why, if it was so bad here, he did not go to another place to live, she said. She asked him, according to Bay News 9. She said he responded, "They brought me here." The substitute then said she responded by saying she arrived in the U.S. from Cuba and would move elsewhere if she felt like she needed to. Then I had to call the office because I did not want to continue dealing with him, she said in the statement, according to Bay News 9. The school's resource officer and dean of students responded to the classroom and attempted to calm the student down, police said in a statement. The student was asked over 20 times to leave the classroom by the dean of students. Outside the classroom, the student created another disturbance and made threats while he was escorted to the office. The student was arrested for disrupting a school function and resisting officer without violence, police said, adding he was taken to a juvenile assessment center. Jesus. Another day in America.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I'm sure his civil rights were violated, sounds like to me.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be somebody's going to get sued.
Yeah, sounds like great ACLU lawsuit.
And also, the school is obviously covering their own ass with the media by repeating over and over again, we didn't arrest him because he didn't say the Pledge of Allegiance. Even though you really essentially did, because the substitute teacher, honestly, and apparently the school actually has a policy that they don't have to rise, but the substitute teacher didn't know that. So she got all self-righteous and apparently super patriotic and decided that she was going to teach this kid a lesson and escalated the situation to where he became mad and they took him outside the class.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't understand that, patriotic rituals aren't mandated by law in America for civilians.
Yep.
They're not. I mean, and that's it.
And you can actually thank the Jehovah's Witnesses for that.
Yeah.
Because they started a lot of that rolling. This is stuff that has been said and done. Like this should not be happening, but it still is. All right. Well, I think that's it. We're going to call it. Next week, episode 250, I have a round table planned with 4 distinguished gentlemen that I really respect, and I'm really looking forward to it. And also, Mr. Rob will be back, and we will be back at Studio A for that one.
Yes, sir. Although I think I'm finally getting the hang of it, man.
I think you're getting it. we got backups to our backups and all kinds of stuch.
Vocoders. Rob, you need to get a vocoder, man.
Yeah, get a vocoder, Rob. All right. Guys, you want to support us on Patreon, go to www.patreon.com/Conspirinormal. If you want to leave a one-time donation, you can do that on our website. We have that there if you don't want to become a Patreon. So, guys, thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back in episode 250. Can you believe it? On Conspirinormal.